Finally, 4 rounds of pain, 4 rounds of questions, and 4 rounds of sheer frustration. And at long last, the Blues deliver. It wasn't perfect, but it was powerful. A 71-point win over the Eagles, and not just any win, a 4-quarter demolition with some guts and some glory. And finally, a bit of conviction in the second half. But let's be honest, we were meant to win this game. West Coast, they were battered, they were broken, and statistically, they are one of the softest sides from a contested position ever in the history of the AFL. So the Blues won. Good. But this has to be a start, not the end of the response. Because beating a bottomed-out West Coast side doesn't make you a contender. It just stops the bleeding. There's plenty to like. Sam Walsh was back flying. Cripps, after 4 weeks of putting the team on his back, he had a bit of freedom and enjoyment. And finally, Carlton played out 4 quarters. But there's also a reminder in this win. Carlton's season was already hanging by a thread. 1 loss to the Eagles side, it was implosion. This is the kind of pressure the club has put on itself. So let's break it all down. The Donomans, the injuries, the breakout game, and whether this is the turning point or it's just a dead cat bouncing. Let's get into it. This was a game Carlton had to win, and to their credit, they didn't just win it, they buried it. 17-19, 121 to 6-4, 50. A 71-point walloping that finally snapped the winless streak, and just as importantly, showed Carlton could actually finish a game strong instead of collapsing like wet cardboard. From the second quarter onwards, the Blues controlled every facet of the game. Sam Walsh turned into a one-man demolition crew, slicing through the Eagles with notorious space, with 37 touches, 13 score involvements, and 3 goals. Cripps, he drifted forward and made them pay. Hewett as well, often unloved really in the media. He had 39 touches, 7 inside 50s. He was clinical, and the forward line clicked. Corey Durden led the small brigade that has been hapless at times with 4 goals, and even Mitch McGovern got a bit of form. He jagged one from the middle of nowhere in a dominant performance. But let's not pretend this clash was between 2 heavyweights. West Coast were as flat as a pancake. That has been left out in the weighing. They had 77 contested possessions, which is the lowest recorded ever since this stat was tracked. The Eagles' midfield was so comprehensively dismantled, you'd be forgiven if they were running a raffle as opposed to running stoppages. Carlton had 73 inside 50s to West Coast 35. That's double. Contested ball was 136 to 77. There was repeat entries, chaos pressure, and finally some system from the Blues. It should have been way over 100, and if the kicking was straighter, it may have been. Carlton have proved, though, they're not dead yet. Now, yes, there is some reality that you've played a side that was 0-4 and held together at this stage with sticky tape, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and for this time, in this moment, Carlton did it emphatically. It was a very much needed reset and a little bit of faith restored for now. Tactically, this was the best Carlton have looked all year. The difference, well, it started at the source, the midfield. The Blues won the clearance count 40 to 18. Contested ball, as we said, 136 to 77. That's not just a win, that's a mugging. Sam Walsh, he was everywhere, linking in chains, bursting out stoppage, managing to ghost forward untracked. Hewett, he did all the grunt work. Chera, he provided the polish. And even Motlop played in the engine room late in the game. The forward half control was almost impregnable. Carlton had 73 inside 50s. Absurd numbers that. West Coast could only manage a meagre 35. It was wave after wave of attack. And while the Blues didn't convert, 17-19 tells you that. The weight of numbers eventually tells the story. Shot quality took a big step forward. The entries were lower. They were more deliberate. But that also comes under zero pressure. And the fact that at times the Eagles just let Carlton mark uncontested in 50, even though there was numbers. Durden led the charge. He was probably one who really did learn something from this. Staying out the back of the stoppages, staying out the back of the aerial contest, clean crumbing, decent forward pressure, and really looked dangerous as opposed to being decorative like the small forwards have been. Defensively, it was the most cohesive we've seen. McGovern played arguably his best game for the club along with Nick Haynes. There was intercept galores and a rare trip forward for McGovern to snag a goal. Haynes was a constant threat throughout, 10 marks, and Sard, he managed to get the space provided to him by debutant Matt Carroll, who has the football IQ to know whether to slot into the hole or overlap and provide the run. The Eagles did have a few moments, sure, but there was not really more than a sniff. The Blues swallowed it up and turned it into repeat pressure. Ball movement was much improved as well, more aggression off halfback, cleaner through the middle. The corridor actually got a use. It was a far cry from the panic footy. But it has to be said, the tackle count tells its tale. There was hardly any tackles, considering the Blues absolutely dominated this from a disposal point of view. There was no tackle pressure coming from the Eagles. It's all well and good doing this against a side that is just running through the motions. Can Carlton do this in other games? Because they obliterated their opposition in the second half and the Eagles literally checked out. Carlton just basically went through the motions of a game plan and they got a bit of control and conviction, but it shouldn't be understated how much confidence they would have got in being able to beat up on an opposition. Now, where do you temper things? Let's be honest. Eagles were putrid. Their midfield was in tatters. Their backline looked horrible. Their contested effort broke records for all the wrong reasons. And the Blues really executed what was in front of them. That's the important part. A lot of players out of form got massively into form. And there is no excuses now moving forward. Pretty much every player on the ground had record number of touches and a really easy game. Did it pass the eye test? Probably not. But it did pass the numerical test, and that is something. The Blues obviously ain't talking about winning a flag from this, but this gives them a little bit of nourishment that they've definitely been wanting. Let's look at the standouts of this game, if there was any. Sam Walsh, the heartbeat returns. If there was any doubt that Sam Walsh has lost it, this was Exhibit A, that he's back. He looked like he was gliding across the AO, while also having a bit of fun out there. You could see early doors he was reluctant to shoot, but in the end ended up with 37 disposals, 13 score involvements and 3 goals. Once he was forced to take that shot, suddenly we saw Sam Walsh do it. And this was a lot of players in that first half looked reluctant to pull the trigger. In the end, he sliced the Eagles open and broke the spirit in the second quarter and the third term. It was clinical, and this was a welcome return to form. Sometimes you just need your hand on the pill. George Hewett, the workhorse weapon. It was, if Walsh was the blade, Hewett was the handle. 39 touches, 8 clearances, 7 inside 50s. Barely wasted a touch. Did all the hard stuff. Managed to get the Blues moving forward. This was another dependable game from George. This is kind of what he's been building. The one player that didn't need any kind of nourishment was this guy. He had a really good game, kept the midfield rolling, especially allowing Cripps to drift forward, which is something us on this show have been crying out for since 2023. And Corey Durden, small forward, big statement, 4 goals, good pressure acts, some footy smarts. This wasn't just opportunism, this was him doing the basics well, staying at the back of marking contests, not getting involved in it, allowing himself to free him up. Crumb some good goals. Although it was an inexperienced backline, it was good to see Durden have his record number of goals, 4 of them, but also be part of something. He set the tone, early scoreboard pressure, and honestly, that is what all the small forwards need to do. Let's look at the Eagles. Was there any takeoffs? Well, there was some hope. Jack Graham, the lone fighter in a midfield mess, really. It was like watching someone try and pick up the Eton mess when it was made. 20 touches, a lot of effort. 0 support at times. He was kind of like a one-man war at times. One of the few Eagles who looked like he actually cared. 2 clearances, 20 disposals, but 9 tackles. He really did try and stand up to the Blues. Ryan Marich, he got on the front foot. Did his best to create rebounds. He worked hard 2 ways. 21 touches, 7 rebound 50s. Showing some maturity, but also with the 524 metres gained, showed that he will try and get them going forward. He did keep Carlton's forward half a little bit honest and had some attention, had to get them going forward. This was a bright spark. And Tom Gross, I want to talk about this because it was totally accidental what he did to Harry Mackay, but he was he backed up his solid performance last week, had roles in multiple chains, put his body on the line. I think he's a very strong customer, bit of physicality, has a bit of grit. One of the few Eagles, for me, who really leaves this game escaping criticism. 18 touches, 4 marks, 3 tackles. He was physical, he was committed, and he actually looked like he wanted to be there, which is a real good sort. We loved him in the draft. Let's look at some of the 5 key takeaways for me. Carlton finally break the second half curse. This was the first time this year that Carlton looked better in the second half than they did the first. In fact, they built their game around this. A 6-goal final term, some full-team defensive efforts, and some decent ball movement in the fourth. No fade out. They put the throttle down, no panic, just sustained scoreboard pressure. And it was okay footy. This is what we've been begging for from the Blues. It wasn't just a win. It was kind of some growth and nourishment in real time. Obviously, the challenge is never going to be as easy as it was this week, but you have got to do it. And there's always that case, isn't there, that Usain Bolt one day crawled before he walked, before he broke 10 seconds in the 100 metres. So we're at that crawling to wobbly stage from this. So if we are going to sprint under 10 seconds, this is what we've got to do. So that is one thing. Another one, Sam Walsh had some nourishment for the soul. This game was chicken noodle soup when you've got the flu. He was very good. He really cut them apart. He looked like he was having fun out there. He looked like he was willing to take the game on, which has been something that has looked lacking in the last 4 games. The scoreboard impact for him was huge. He was genuinely wasted 2 chances in the first quarter where he didn't want to shoot and he gave it off. But this was burst. This really burst that. The repeat contest started to happen. He started to dictate the tempo of the game, change the whole mood. Walsh literally looked like he was back from this game. George Hewett can't be underrated anymore, even though this wasn't his best game, I don't think. It was bloody close. He's quietly been stringing together an exceptional body of work in this year. And then again, 39 touches, 8 clearances, relentless link-up work. And obviously, this is really showing Voss. You don't have to play Cripps there all the time. This allowed Lord to come into the midfield, which gave him one of his better games when he came on as sub. George Hewett, for me, really allows Carlton to work around him as opposed to having him as a stopper. He's a very talented footballer and showed it today. West Coast Eagles, their culture crisis is getting ugly. This wasn't just a team outclassed. This was a side that gave up. 77 contested possessions is the lowest in AFL recorded history. Their midfield offered 0 resistance, no leaders really standing up. There was whispers at the start, about Oscar Allen moving and stuff like that, and has that affected them? But there was no buy-in at all. Everyone checked out. The way they defended the corridor and inside their own D50 was deplorable, and serious questions need to be asked. McQualter has got a big mess on his hands, and at the moment there's no quick fix. This has to be a springboard. It can't be a sugar hit. Let's be real, right? West Coast are at their lowest ebb. We beat up a side that literally are screwed. This doesn't mean Carlton are back, but it shows what's possible if they can do this for longer. Now, I don't want to sound like Voss, but this has to be the blueprint with that kind of effort and intensity. I don't think much changed systematically. I think all you saw is the Blues were more willing to keep repeating what they're doing for longer because there was no resistance. And for me, that is Carlton's system. We ain't going to see this classy half-back loose. We ain't going to see it. You ain't going to see a team play that forward. People complaining about that don't understand. You are playing a side that's offering no resistance. Of course, your fullback is going to be playing 75 metres away from your own goal. That's why you're going to press up the ground, hemorrhage them in. But that's what Carlton have got to do. Carlton's entire system is built around that high-risk, high-reward, repeat, real scrappy entries. And if that's the way it's going to be, this game has to be a springboard that you have got to take them kicks on. You have got to shoot at goal. You have got to risk it for the biscuit. It's going to be a real watch this space because you've got North Melbourne, who themselves have got a little bit of mental fragility at the minute, but then you've got to do it against Geelong. Then you've got to do it against other sides. So this is going to be really interesting. Can the Blues step it up now? There is no excuse. The Blues genuinely now have all the confidence in the world. So let's look at some of the quick talking points. Harry Mackay, courage in comeback. Although he only lasted a brief quarter, it was great to see him publicly open up about his struggles pre the game, but also to see him back out there for the Blues. And it was gutting that, as Harry often does, puts his body on the line in a desperate contest and copped a head knock. These things happen, but it was courageous. No stat line could capture really what that moment meant. Just to see him back out there for the fans. Fingers crossed that once he's got over this is going to be good. We'll see him back. He's going to have to do the 12 days of concussion protocols, but we hope to see him back soon. It was good to see him back out there. It put a smile on our face. Brodie Kemp, the injury no one wanted to see. Injuries are part of footy, but it doesn't make it easy to watch. It looked bad straight away. You saw his leg go. It seems to be an Achilles injury. We're still waiting for the club to do that. That may mean he's out for the year. It's really gutting because this was a game really where he could have desperately needed some kind of nourishment. Cooper, Lord and Will White, the kids are all right. White got his first AFL goal. That guy tries so hard. Lord got one as well and looked comfortable playing a little bit more in the midfield, particularly around stoppage, not around centre clearance, and found plenty of the footy and played his role, and so did Will Wright. They bring up some nice energy. We've been crying out for that for the last couple of weeks. It's a small sample size, sure, but it's really hard for Cooper Lord to come straight into the game playing a role that allowed him to. This maybe gives Voss that option that you can pull Cripps out of there and make it a little bit easy. And then Mitch McGovern and Nick Haynes, from memes to machines. A goal, an intercept, and some good ball use for Mitch McGovern. He went at 100% in the second term. That was the real Mitch McGovern, and more, we need to see it more. And Nick Haynes looked fairly solid. It's going to be interesting with Nick Haynes because he got to play that kind of role he did for GWS, where he's high up the ground and he's not got so much defensive responsibility. We've seen this called into question when teams pressure us, but their ball use was taking a little bit of a knock in the last 4 weeks. So it was great to see them get that kind of nourishment and get it. And then Oscar Allen, his leadership really under fire. He started hot, but then vanished, and just 4 disposals after quarter time and didn't really pressure Carlton's defence. You expect the co-captain to set the tone. Allen checked out, and it was a tough week really for Oscar Allen in the last couple of weeks. And McQuarter's got to start questioning this because it feels like the guys who have been there a long time are really, really checking out. Final thoughts, relief. Let's call it what it is. A win that was absolutely a necessity, but not one to hang your Premiership hat on. Carlton did what they should do. Nothing more, nothing less. And for once, they did it convincingly. The pressure came in going into this game, but there was no pressure on the field. And a loss would have tipped this club into full Narnia mode. But they responded well. Walsh stood up. Cripps did what he had to do. Hewett owned the guts. McGovern and co got a bit of nourishment. And the small forwards in Durden and stuff got a little bit of confidence. The team actually looked okay. They were very damaging from midfield to forward. 4 quarters, 4 points, 1 purpose. That's what the fans wanted. But the real kicker, if they turn up next week and coast it, this is all being wasted. This has to be the springboard to something. It's all well and good getting the nourishment, but if we are a bottom 6 team, yes, we'll beat up the bottom 6 teams. If we are a team that is serious about playing finals, this is the start of something, not a sugar hit, not a paper over the claps job, because one swallow doesn't make a summer, and one that's a busted Eagles side win doesn't really solve the identity crisis we've seen from the Blues in 4 weeks. It's okay, people have been saying that the Blues haven't been decimated, but that's just a mediocre side. You ain't going to get decimated by top 8 sides if you are 9 or 10. The Blues here really need to start making some control. As for the Eagles, it's grim, proper grim. That wasn't just a loss. They are going to be part of the 2-spot special of PommyInOz this week for a reason. Lowest contested possession count, a midfield that looked like it was guessing, and captains that just went missing when it mattered most. You've got Harley Reid there, who looks like Jason Horne-Francis at the minute, that he's literally frustrated and he's just waiting for the window open. Marich, Archer, Reid, Gross, they showed some things and they looked okay at times, but there was no system, no structure, no leadership, no guidance, and unless something changes fast, McQuarter might not be the man. It's early days, but they've got to start getting this in here. So yeah, the Carlton fans, they can breathe easy because the only thing more dangerous than pressure is false hope. And let's hope this isn't false hope. I've been PommyInOz. Let's see if they can back it up next week. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Flick some comments and make sure you share this to a mate. See you soon. Pom out.